It's not new to them, but it's new.
Yeah, it's old tech. It's 70 years old, and the math goes all the way back to the 700s. It's not brand new.
Definitely dated yourself. I'm just kidding.
I was working with Microsoft a lot, really pushing AI to the top.
That's a remarkable journey, a doctorate in AI.
I love that skyscraper over there. Show me the money.
Don't talk about it.
Do something that's really going to move the needle.
Whether it hallucinates or it lies.
It's more holistic, senses-based learning on language, like what we do with language models.
This is like number 100 in a year and a half for me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, come on, threaten me with a good time.
Now what? Are you telling me that that's all wasted money?
John, the sales machine, Rankins!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Dr. Lisa Palmer, an AI strategist who's not here to hype the buzzwords. She's worked with Microsoft, Gartner, and Fortune 500 boardrooms, helping them actually do something valuable with AI. Now she's teaching business leaders how to use AI to drive real growth. Not just talk about it in meetings. If you're a founder or an executive trying to figure out how to stay ahead in this AI powered world and not end up building what Dr. Lisa calls toy AI, this is the episode you do not want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome her to the show, Dr. Lisa Palmer.
It's great to be here, John. No toy AI. That's my mantra. No toy AI.
I love that. And I love how you openly talk about that. Let's talk about your AI journey. And your journey remarkably has been decades into learning and growing and teaching at the university way before 2022 when ChatGPT came out in November. You know, it became a thing like to the general public. Tell us about your journey and how it's evolved from you first becoming in the know of AI, because I have AI architects. One of them worked, and two of them are AI architects and engineers. And they've actually, both of them had 12 years of experience, one working for Intel,
Right.
one working for the Department of Defense and drone technology, right? And, you know, it's not new to them, but it's new to the world. So tell us about your journey, how you got started, and what do you see happening and what do you see has happened in the evolution of AI?
Yeah. AI is old. It's old tech. It's 70 years old, and the math goes all the way back to the 700s. So yes, it's not brand new. My own journey.
You definitely dated yourself. I'm just kidding.
My own journey has been a little bit unusual. Started out, I've got an undergraduate in engineering, and I started out as an IT practitioner. And I worked all across different areas of IT. Ran infrastructure for a global energy company, 45,000 desktops. And then anyway, I ultimately became a chief information officer for a financial services org. So that's how I got started. And then my kids were little, and I didn't want to be traveling the globe. I had a global role, and I was gone way too much. And so I was working with Microsoft a lot. They were the vendor, and I was the customer in that situation. And they came to me and said, hey, any chance you might be interested in a sales job? And I was like, really? Okay. And then they said, you can work from home, and we'll give you a reasonably sized territory. And my 4 kids at home, that was sounding pretty good to me versus 10 days abroad at a time. And so I did that. I made the leap, and I went into enterprise sales, and I stayed in that arena for a long time. So I did enterprise selling and sales leadership for Microsoft, for Teradata, for Splunk. And the thing that those companies all had in common for me was data. Data is that underpinning for absolutely everything that is AI. And so I've always been fascinated by what we can learn and how we can improve based on what we learned from leveraging data. And so that was really what got me interested in artificial intelligence, specifically machine learning, because you use machine learning off of data. And so that was really what got me first interested in it. I also spent several years working for Gartner, and I had about 900 executive leaders under my umbrella of responsibility. And what we did was advise them about how to use research to drive their digital transformation efforts. And again, was just constantly involved with data and with strategy and all of these things that were really pushing AI to the top. And I finally was at the point where I thought, AI is finally about to have its moment in the sun. And I had an MBA at that point, and I'd always wanted to get my doctorate. And so I decided right before COVID hit that I was going to go back and get my doctorate while I was still working full time, of course. And I got so lucky because for the first time in my entire career, I spent 2 years without having to travel at all. I was home for 2 years. And so that really made my doctorate possible, I think. So anyway, I was just at the last 6 months of my doctorate when ChatGPT was released to the market, and it just exploded interest in AI. And I launched my consulting practice. I left corporate and launched my own consulting practice in September of that year. And it's just been a rocket ship ever since. So sometimes it's good to, it's good to be a little bit timing blessed. It's good to be lucky that they did that they went to market right when they did. And I had fortunately had the right timing with going back to add that capability to my portfolio of experiences. So that's what's kind of led me to where I am today. So the reality is I have the benefit of a huge Rolodex of, C-suite level people that I've worked with for many years that are mostly in supersized organizations. And now I help them to leverage my kind of unusual lens that I see the world through and help them use AI to actually pragmatically drive business results for their organizations.
Yeah, I think that's a remarkable journey. Like, amazing. ChatGPT happens, and then you finish your degree.
Yeah.
With a doctorate in AI, because
they released in November of 22, and I finished my doctorate officially in July of 23. So
yeah. And
right
not
together.
many people on the planet have those credentials. So right place, right time, and doing something that can really make a difference in the world. It's really exciting. So you talk about, and you've got the book Show AI coming out, and I'm going to plug that all day long because that's amazing. And you talk about Show AI, don't tell it. So how can SaaS founders use this approach in investor pitches and early demos? And what do you mean by the Show AI, don't tell it? Can you go deeper into that?
Absolutely. Long and short of it is have a visual something. Start with the end in mind. So if you're going to go and pitch building a brand new city, you don't start out and say, we're going to lay the utility groundwork, and then we're going to put in some sidewalks, and then, then we're going to build a park. And then you don't do that. But as sellers, we do that. We lay this painful groundwork, and our poor buyers are going, where are they going with this? Right? So we don't want to do that. We want to show them the picture of the city on the hill 30 seconds into the meeting. And then you go, okay. And if they say, I love that skyscraper over there, now you know what to talk to them about. That's what they care about. Now we dig in there. So instead of wasting an hour telling them about all the stuff they didn't care about, we show them the picture. We show them a visual. We literally show them what it can look like. You show your prototype, you show your demo, you show charts, graphs, and there's dozens of different kinds of visualization tools you can use. But you do that at the beginning. You show them what good looks like from the beginning. And then you're able to guide the conversation based off of what they are interested in, instead of taking a random shot at what you think they might be interested in by just laying every painful piece of groundwork between now and there.
I get it. It reminds me of the movie Jerry Maguire. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Don't talk about it. Show me the money, right? Show me what's possible. I love that. And you say, don't focus on the toy AI. What do you mean by that? Because I've come to be aware that there are a lot of wrappers around LLMs and different AI models out there. What do you mean by avoid the toy AI?
I mean, just because it's shiny or cool doesn't mean it's going to create business value. It doesn't mean it's going to create societal value. It's not going to be worth using your limited resources to pursue. We want to make sure that the AI that we pursue, there's so many things we can do. So we've got to be really prudent about what we choose to do. Choose to do something that's really going to move the needle. Be thoughtful about what metric is it that you want to move? What experience is it that you want to create? If you're trying to create a better customer experience, what does that look like? Is that an extra drop-down menu? Probably not. You may have to go all the way back to the beginning and build a completely new prototype. So it's about focusing on creating impact, on doing things that actually are going to matter and not just getting enthralled with the really fun, cool tech, which is super easy to do.
Yeah, because you can go down rabbit holes, and learn. And my experience is, and a lot of people's experience, Victor Antonio was on the podcast. He wrote the book Sales Ex Machina, The Future of Sales in AI in 2018. And he literally said, in 2018, I sold 50 copies. And now the book's as popular as ever after ChatGPT. But, he went deep into the fact that you can go down a rabbit hole with ChatGPT. And the truth is that the AI, whether it hallucinates or it lies or just tells you what you want to hear, right? Because it will always agree with you and it will always tell you what you want to hear. As long as you prompt it to do something, it's just going to tell you what you want to hear and then adjust it based on the next prompt. How have you seen it evolve, and where is it at? Where do you think it's at right now? Because it's like MS-DOS. It's like the beginning of the internet, the beginning of websites. It's so raw now, and it's going to get so much better.
Well, everybody's enamored right now with large language models. Me too, and they're super powerful. I use them myself. My team uses them every day. We're building agents on top of LLMs every day. But you need guardrails and controls, and there's a lot that goes into making sure that the results that we get from large language models are correct and useful and valuable. So there's a lot of interest right now in what are called world models. And the idea around world models is that it's not just language that the models are trained on. The models are actually trained multimodally, so they can see what's going on in the world. They can hear what's going on in the world. Yes, language is one piece of it, but it's more akin to the kind of holistic senses-based learning that humans have the benefit of. So there's a lot of interest in kind of next generation in these world models that are going to be trained on more of our senses, not just on language like what we do with language models.
This is like number 100 in a year and a half for me. I had Matt Price on the podcast, and he built Crescendo. So previous to that, he worked at Zendesk, and he helped take Zendesk public. And he'd helped take 4 companies public. And what's amazing is he built out the AI company with a handful of people. And then he went and bought a call center with 1,000 people in the Philippines because he was able to raise money. And in less than a year, from 2024, at 14 months later, his company is valued at $500 million.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, come on. Threaten me with a good time. I mean,
that's fantastic. I just love it. There's so much possibility, right? It's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is he connected the dots between, one, making people more efficient and more effective. Because at the end of the day, if we want to be valuable and show value, you say show AI. For me, it's tell the truth and show the proof. One of my mentors told me that once. Tell the truth, show the proof. And so utilizing AI, ultimately, we have to show the economic value is what in B2B enterprise sales, how do we determine the economic value, not only for our customer, but for our own company? What is the economic value? How do you see building out agentic AI can establish value for your sales proposition or your offer to create economic value for your clients?
One of the things that has people really worried about agentic AI is they'll tell me we've invested hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in all the SaaS software that we have in our environments. Now what? Are you telling me that that's all wasted money? I mean, that's a big concern for large enterprises. And the vision that I have for this is that SaaS is going to continue, especially the big SaaS platforms that have proliferated everywhere. They're going to become part of the stack, but they're not going to be the GUI anymore. They're not going to be the graphic user interface. We're going to have an agentic layer that sits on top of SaaS and essentially takes advantage of all that capability that's built into these rich applications, these rich SaaS applications. And we're going to have agents that are going to be the primary graphic interface for users. Those players are going to resist that, and it's going to get ugly. They're not going to like that role very much. They're essentially going to become part of the infrastructure stack, and there's going to be an entire new game in town that is the agentic layer on the top. And that agentic layer, I think, is going to be largely transitory. So we're going to create agents that do a fantastic job of what we need them to do right now in this moment. And we're going to keep upgrading. We're going to keep changing what's happening with our organizational structures. Our business processes are going to move and change. All new jobs are going to exist that didn't exist before. Some jobs are going to go away. All of that. And every time that change happens, we're going to have different needs at that top level. And we're just going to swap out one agent for another. And at some point in time, those agents aren't going to be running on large language models anymore. They're going to be running on those world models that are much more capable of replicating quality decision-making, et cetera, than what the language models are able to do today. So it's going to be, that I think the model that we have in our minds, those of us that are interested in the SaaS space and continue to be, there's going to continue to be a strong market for SaaS players, but the role that they're going to play is different than what it's been in the past.
Yeah.
That's my magic 8-ball, John. My magic 8-ball. You shake it, see what it's going to say.
Your magic 8-ball. Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, I think you could still buy them on Amazon. I don't know. But it's very enlightening, and I love your insight. Funny enough, when I was talking about Matt Price and what he created, he literally identified from his time at Zendesk the gap in the marketplace and the complaints that Zendesk is having. It's the efficiency and the effectiveness, and then connecting that to a human. So the AI does all the redundant stuff, and it goes through all of the steps, and AI doesn't sleep. AI doesn't take coffee breaks. AI can do, millions of things in a minute versus a human. And it all leads to, do you want to get on with the human? And that's why he's got a call center. So he's crossed over to being better, faster, more efficient than anybody else in the world. And for me, I see that as performance management, right? How do we drive performance in organizations? A lot of people are, they talk about CRM, they talk about ERP, they talk about functionality. But at the end of the day, how do we drive performance to increase sales and retain our customers? And that's the world I live in and the world I'm going to live in. Regardless of what has happened, that's where my entire focus is, on how do we drive performance of ourselves and use AI to do that, because ultimately humans aren't going away anytime soon. Knock on wood, right?
No, humans become more critical than ever, particularly in the sales process, right? You become more critical than ever because everyone is going to have similar AI capabilities. That's the reality. So what is your differentiation? The humans that you have are going to be your differentiation. So if you have great sellers and somebody else doesn't, you're going to have an outsized advantage. How do you have great sellers? You make sure they have the information that they need, the training that they need, the support that they need, and you turn them loose to do what humans do really well. So one of the things that I get really excited about from an AI perspective is that I like point of view based selling. When I was a CIO myself, if you showed up at my place of business and sat down in a chair and said, "Tell me about your business," I gave you 4 minutes. You had 4 minutes to prove that you had something to bring to the conversation, or my assistant was going to show you out. That's what happens when you have a CIO that's actually been a seller. You don't really want that, because it makes your job really hard. But that we have the ability now to do the really heavy lifting, deep research, pull together all of this really disparate data, give the sellers all this information instead of them spending all their time on gathering the data. Now they've got all of this information, and they can use their own intellect, their brainstorming, their smart colleagues, their peers in the market. They can use their communities. Private communities are driving conversations today. Public sector, they're not public conversations anymore. These are behind the scenes, private community conversations. And those people, they get in those communities, and they share this information, and they start hammering around until they get a point of view to take to their client that's actually really unique and high value to them. And that is something that we really haven't had the time. A lot of sellers don't have the time. They've got huge books of business. They don't have the time to dig into a specific account the way that they wish that they could to come up with that kind of point of view. And now we can have the machines do that part of it, so that we can turn the humans loose on the creative and the management.
First and foremost, from the area of sales and salespeople, the differentiator at the top of the hour, when we began, you said, I want to bring AI to people and have empathy. It's the number one quality you can have, to put yourself in the shoes of people who have challenges, to make a sale, to help them, right? Really, it's really building a relationship. And you also mentioned about the game. The game is changing. It's so funny. I have a town hall every month with my team, and we call it Game Changer Night. And we talk about changing the game, because ultimately I've been running direct sales teams and businesses in several countries around the world. I literally built sales teams into the thousands, and a lot of them were knocking on doors, which is the hardest, most challenging sales role you can have, because retention is tough. And I've pivoted, and now I'm into B2B sales, and it's a different realm, and I'm absolutely loving it. I'm like a kid in the candy store. And my entire mindset now is, don't hate the player, don't hate the game, change the game. And this is an opportunity for so many of us out there that have pivoted and or are now having these amazing tools and or accessibility to enterprise level language models to build something to compete with the old legacy users. Because if you look at our system, and it's completely different. When you open CRMs, they're all about the same, right? When you open our system, it's all about performance. It's almost like playing a game. The entire platform is all about the user, like he's on his dashboard playing a game. Because I want to change the game. I want to empower that guy to be better, faster, more efficient, and eliminate all of the redundant stuff, so that he's more effective, and he's focused more, or she's focused more on finding out how to service the client. And more, as I've delved into this and studied so many different models, read so many different books, had Mark Roberge on the podcast, who built HubSpot, first 10,000 customers, Aaron Ross for Salesforce, first $100 million in Salesforce, like literally legends, Jeffrey Gitomer, Keenan, Gap Selling.
Yeah.
And I've listened to all of their psychology and methodology, and I've realized it all comes back to still what Zig Ziglar said: service. Come from service, you're never nervous. And the only way to do that is to have empathy. And that's what I want to build within our organization to help organizations. And the more meetings that I still go to with these enterprise level companies, the more I see it's complete data chaos. They have ERP systems, they have field sales apps, they have CRMs, and they have no single source of truth. How do you see AI? And I know there's technology out there. How do you see AI solving that problem?
Well, there's architectural differences to what's possible today that didn't used to exist. So a lot of the data siloed problems, everything's off in this system and it's in that system, and the data is not normalized. And then you go into all of the challenges that have existed for, frankly, 2 decades or longer now. And we have tools from an AI perspective now that largely nullify all of those challenges. So now the biggest problem is that we're all bringing this legacy mindset to the table where we're all used to solving problems in the same way. We've got all this massive data. And so now we're going to go add a data warehouse and we're going to take on a 5-year data cleaning effort. It leads to financial burn, people burn, it leads nowhere good. And so, I've stood in boardrooms and literally listened to board directors scream at CIOs who are in there telling him, our data is not ready for AI. I've now personally been in a room 3 times when this happened, and they essentially said, we've given you tens of millions of dollars for data for over the last, 10 years, 15 years. What do you mean the data is not ready for AI, right? So that answer is not going to fly. And the reason that the answer doesn't have to be that is because we can architect the solution completely different today. If you're trying to layer AI on top of data structures and you're trying to do it the same way that you've done it for 10 years, you are going to fail. So the challenge that you have in front of you first and foremost is to change your mindset. And we don't even realize we're biased because we're humans, right? So we're biased to what's comfortable to us. We're biased to what we know and what we understand. And we don't even know we are until somebody points something out like, hey, did you know that you could actually architect that completely differently? And you don't even have to touch your data warehouse. You can use agents and go directly to your applications. No, most people that have been doing this for a really long time have no idea they can do that because they're still trying to solve a problem in the same way that they would have done it before these new capabilities existed. So we're our own worst enemy at this point. It's the mindset that is tripping people up first and foremost. We've got to capture hearts and minds first. And that's why I wrote the book that I did, Show AI, Don't Tell It, because the way that you capture hearts and minds is to show them what's possible. And that changes their mindsets.
If you're enjoying this episode and you're picking up what I'm putting down and what the guests are actually putting out there, do me a favor, like and comment what you liked about the episode, or even comment what would you like to hear, what topics would you like to hear in the future, because believe me, it matters. I read absolutely every single one of them, and I want to bring you more and more value to help companies scale so that we can grow this podcast to make a bigger difference. Now let's get back to the show. And we all have blind spots, right? It doesn't matter our background, our experience, especially when we're in our own box, right? For companies that already have established SaaS and they've already built it up with, Laravel, PHP, the old SQL framework and databases and stuff like that. How much different? Because now AI is actually coding, but AI does a lot. And what I know from my developers is we can have it build something, but as far as scalability for now and sustainability, it breaks whenever you ask it to change anything. So when do you think it's okay to go full agentic AI, or is it going to be a combination of both? Still having programming language, still establishing the infrastructure before just all of it becoming agentic?
Well, it's really, really easy to build prototypes today. It's really easy to build a prototype. Making something that is truly scalable and sustainable, to use your words, is you have to have smart humans that know what they're doing, right? So anybody can build a prototype, quite literally anyone with a computer today, that the tools are available that you can do vibe coding. For anyone that may be listening that's not familiar, that's quite literally, you can use prompts. You can type or talk prompts into a system and build prototypes with no coding knowledge whatsoever. Several weeks ago, I actually participated in a hackathon on a weekend, and I CEO 2 companies, and I've got a lot going on, and I don't get to get my hands dirty with that kind of thing very often anymore. And so I set aside a weekend and I took part in Lovable's coding hackathon, and I challenged myself to completely use vibe coding. I didn't use any coding at all. There was one point that I came to, and it just kept screwing something up over and over, and I had to back up and say, okay, I'm either going to stick to my guns and adhere to my adhere to my goal to vibe code this whole thing, or I've got to do something different. And I decided I was going to stick to my goals, so I backed up and changed my design, and then it went forward and it was fine. But the reality is, what I built will never scale. It would never scale. It works great for the small application that I built it for, but it's a prototype. It's not going to scale. And it's not connected to multiple systems. There's no integrations. There's one data store that I built that backs it up, right? So when you talk about enterprise application situations, you're talking about multiple systems you need to talk to. You're talking about serious security requirements you've got to consider. You know, there's issues. I mean, the layer upon layer of complexity, and the more complex the environment is, the more you need humans. So every time I hear people saying that, you know, we're laying off all of these coders and everything, I'm like, well, you're going to have to pay them a lot more when you bring them back.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, I had a friend, he posted on Facebook, hey, I created my own CRM over the weekend. He created a pipeline and an address book. And he's like, I don't need any of these expensive technologies. And then I didn't even comment. I'm like, you know, congratulations, you know, because you did solve your problem, because he's a very small business. He books appointments for interviews, and that's great. Don't want to burst your bubble. You are never going to scale that. It just is not going to happen.
But he doesn't need to, right? I mean,
Right.
and that's what I mean when I say no toy AI, because in that case, that works for him. If it solves your actual business problem, right? If you actually solve your business problem, then that was worth doing, and that works. It just gets a lot more complicated when you're talking about, you know, $46 billion company with, 100,000 employees around the globe, and data requirements under the EU's guidelines, and right?
Data privacy, security,
yeah.
compliance, you know, it's a whole different ballgame. That's what I see, and the value of what you're doing and Show AI, because ultimately it has to solve a problem. The bigger problem you solve, the more money and the more you're going to make, and the more valuable you are as an individual or organization. So for me, it's not only about the game, but what game are you playing? Because I don't want to play small. I'm not interested in small. I love small towns. I came from Caney, Kansas. You 500 people, me 5,000 people, where, you know, football was a thing, the Caney Bullpups, like the Friday night lights and going to the pep rallies. You know, this was so much fun. And it was the most fun of my life. And the entire community was about service. Like, we were just one community. Whenever there's tornadoes, we would all huddle in the churches. We would all take care of each other. It's just a wonderful place and space to be in life. And I know that AI will never take that away. It will just add value to us all being able to simplify our lives, even with complicated data structure. And I choose to play the game of solving bigger problems. So as far as going full agentic, there's still going to be a place and space for those engineers and architects and scaling.
I think the jobs change, John. So if you do 80% of your job today is manually coding, that's going to change. All right. So because the what is going to take up more human time, and the how it gets done is going to take up less human time. So the planning parts of what we do are really being thoughtful about what is the impact that you want to create. You can spend a lot more time in the planning phase. You have to spend a lot more time in planning and strategy, because that right there is what gets levered in the execution phase. Because we can execute really fast in comparison to what we could do in the past. It used to be that we had to get through the planning as fast as possible because the execution was going to take a really long time. But what we're essentially doing is we're watching watching this invert. Now you want to get the planning right because you can execute like this. It didn't used to be that way. And the longer that we go in this process, and the more it's going to become like that. The value of your planning period is going to be so important to get lockstep with what is your business trying to achieve? What are those key metrics that you really want to drive? If you've been squishy on your metrics, you better straighten them up, because everything that we do is going to drive whatever that outcome is. So the how part of our jobs is going to get smaller, and the why and the what is going to get bigger. So the roles themselves are going to change. They're going to look different, and we're going to have entirely new. We already have new job categories that didn't exist, prior to LLMs hitting the mass market. So the jobs are going to change. They're going to be different. And yes, there'll be new jobs, and there'll be jobs that don't exist anymore. We don't have telephone operators anymore either.
I was talking to Victor, Sales Ex Machina. He's like, there's going to be 3 categories of what's going on with companies. There's going to be replacement. There's going to be displacement, where people just get displaced. And then there's going to be abatement. And abatement means you're not even going to have those roles in your company anymore. You're not even going to have to recruit from, because you're going to have an army of agentic agents. And now I'm working with, these really smart people that are way smarter than I am. Data scientists figuring out forecasting and predictable revenue streams, as well as these AI architects and engineers. And literally, rather than building one agent to just do one thing, they build an agent to do one thing, an agent to check it, an agent to iterate it. And now it's like a social network of agents. And it can get expensive because these guys make a lot of money. And you work with these guys.
Yeah, they do make a lot of money, but they're worth a lot of money. Yeah, they are. A lot of people ask me this about the job market and what happens. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that there are jobs going away. That's just it. That's the bottom line of it. There are jobs that are going to go away, and you cannot bury your head in the sand and be somebody that's resisting. If you're resisting, you're going to be one of the first to be gone. You have to embrace change. You have to educate yourself, upskill yourself. There's free training everywhere. Open a browser and there's free training you can access about AI someplace right now today. And there's so many content creators out there sharing information just like you do, right? So I always want people to take that message away. Please don't be one of those ones that resist just because you're afraid, because you will actually create your own demise if you don't engage and upskill.
Yeah, I agree. So what do you think is the simplest use case that a startup or, an existing SaaS company can build today that actually is going to deliver an ROI for them in less than 90 days?
I'm a big fan of Mind Studio. Mind Studio is a visual agent building platform, and it's robust, and you can build solutions that are going to be scalable. There's a lot of nuance to what I'm saying here, John. So
yeah,
I'm glazing. I'm glazing a little.
Glazing.
But I love that tool. I like Mind Studio. It has a lot of built-in agents. So if you just want to up-level your game right now today, you want to empower your people, give them access to Mind Studio and let them use the marketplace of agents that already live on there to just crush their productivity every day. Yeah, I mean, you can do it right now.
I absolutely love you. Crush your productivity. So the little girl from Broken Arrow has become a world thought leader that will really change the game. That's fantastic. So let's go deeper into that, because I love that. So what's your go-to AI tech stack right now? And I know it's changing all the time, but what's your go-to AI tech stack right now?
Well, I'll give you a list of tools. How about that? We're big Studio fans. We use Lovable. There's a myriad of different databases that we leverage. All the big name cloud providers have different value in their platforms depending on what it is you're trying to achieve, meaning Azure, Google Cloud, AWS.
What about MongoDB?
Yeah. Well, it's not in, I mean, full disclosure, it's not in our stack right now, but that doesn't mean it can't be or won't be. We have a lot of different situations that we build for. I'm really careful to make sure that the things that we are building are straddling a line. And I'm talking about my agentic company now, but versus what enterprise clients do that I work with, because I have a startup. And for my startup, we're always, we are big on the show, not tell, for obvious reasons. So we do a lot of prototyping. And I mean, quite literally, sometimes we show up to a very first conversation with a client with a prototype built just for them.
I'm getting so much value. I think I'm going to have to write you a check. I think I'm going to owe you. I'm going to have to write you a check after this podcast, because it's so valuable, and it is show, not tell. So as an example, I created a next level sales framework to drive performance, increase sales. And for me, next level sales is always from service. The psychology is service, solving problems and making sure they're satisfied. That's the psychology. The methodology is next level sales. My goal is anybody and everybody in my life, I have to be able, with my relationship, to take them to the next level, to add value to their life. So wherever they're at and where do they want to be, that's how I add value. I just lost a dear friend yesterday, and he added so much value to my life. I spent the whole morning celebrating his life. And to me, I mean, he did portraits of my whole family. He's an artist. And downstairs in my office, there's these paintings he created of him and I as friends. And within those paintings, there's all these words like that I used with him when I helped his mother heal from diabetes. And, he was an artist. I bought his art and stuff like that. We became friends, and then I helped him, and then he would never charge for me. And so he did a portrait of my family, and I commissioned him to do my family. But then he did one, and embedded in, he did a set, him and I, and this is hanging in my office. And within, if you look really closely, you see love, care, loyalty, friend, and WWGD, because I always used to tell him, what would Grandpa do? He said, how do you find a way, John, always to bounce back or to be successful? And I have a ring that has WWGD on it. What would Grandpa do? So I always want to serve. That's the next level to me. And me going to the next level, I want to make a difference. And next level is an acronym to help amateurs become great at sales and service. And the way we do that is, first and foremost, don't talk about your product. You would probably try to shut me down in my sales presentation to you, because I would ask you what your challenges are, and you'd say, you got 4 minutes. And I'd say, excellent. I can show you in less than 4 minutes how we've transformed other companies' entire culture and organization by driving performance, having real-time data, scale their business, and earn more money. But in order for me to do that, I would be full of shit if I told you that I knew how to solve all of your internal problems if you didn't share with me. And anybody who shows up to say they can solve your problem without understanding your needs is just trying to sell you something. I'm trying to help, and I can help you like I've helped others, but I need to know your needs. And that's the first step. And the goal of every meeting is to get to the next step, to take you to the next level. So what are your needs? What's going to be the economic value and the economic impact of us solving that problem for you? How much does it cost you? And how much more will you earn when we can create economic value with the solution? And then what are the X factors that's going to hold you back or that's created this problem in the first place? And why hasn't it been solved? Or who's the decision makers? Because there's going to be X factors. And finally, there has to be the right time for me to make the offer. I need to know that I've handled all of your objections, all of your challenges, and provided an MVP or a solution for you to go to the next level. And that's how simple our sales methodology. So you got the psychology of service. The methodology is literally, how do you help people or organizations go to the next level, built into technology, powered by artificial intelligence, with the advice of Dr. Lisa Palmer. Come on.
It's been great being with you today, John.
It's great being with you. I'm the new guy. I'm the new guy on the block, but I'm not new to sales. And I'm definitely not new to service. I absolutely told you from the beginning, I'm a super fan. Now I've just got to put it all to paper. And I hope all the listeners out there take it to heart, because Show AI is going to be a game changer. You're already changing the game, Lisa. How did you change the game with Microsoft and Gartner now? Are you still instrumental in
I'm
their growth?
still connected to both of those organizations. And the fantastic thing about being around in this industry for a while is that I know great people all over the industry now, because we cross paths in one way, shape, or form in a prior life, right? Whether we were colleagues or customers or partners. And it's just such a fantastic phase of life for me. I have all these awesome people that I've built these relationships with over the years, and I get to be right in the middle of some of the most exciting developments in technology that have occurred in my lifetime. And I just feel incredibly blessed to do what I do every day. And I try to pour into my community as much as I can. I write every day. My content's all free. Our business is 100% inbound. We don't do any outbound. And I credit that to just pouring into the community and them responding by gifting me their trust and letting us work together. And that's what we do. And as best, the 50s is my best decade yet. We'll see what comes next.
Amen to 50s. I'm living the dream, and every day is a gift. Every single day. I found that out. I find it out more and more. I mean, family, friends, you hit 50 and friends and colleagues start passing away, get stage 4 cancer or have different challenges. But I see every day as a blessing. Every single day. What advice would you give C-suites on AI transformation as far as the mindset they need to shift to stay relevant today and beyond?
So the first thing I tell them, they always think is a little bit crazy. I tell them, use a tool, pick any tool. I don't care what it is, but pick an AI tool and use it. Start using it today. You've got to get your hands dirty. I tell people that AI is a contact sport. You cannot play AI from the press box. You can't play it from the sidelines. You got to get on the field. So executives think that they kind of look at you like, but you don't really understand. You don't really until you experience it. That's the show, not tell, right? So when you get hands-on and you see that you can go to gamma.app and create a presentation, a gorgeous presentation from scratch in, 45 seconds, that changes the way sellers see the world forever. So when I get a chief revenue officer to load his entire presentation, to build it from scratch based off of a prompt that takes 30 seconds to write, there's nothing that changes their mindset faster than in them going, wow, that normally takes me 12 hours. I was like, yep.
I have a brilliant assistant, and she understands the psychology and the methodology that I want instilled into a presentation, because you give me a whiteboard marker and I can do a presentation and ultimately tell a story. However, it's very important to be data driven with that story. And she creates presentations, and literally, before AI, it would take her 3 to 4 days to put together a matrix to deliver for a presentation. Whether I was selling from the stage, I've literally sold from almost every different arena you could think of, from going door to door, knocking on doors, selling children's books, to doing ADT alarms, to American Express credit cards, and then building sales teams to do it, from door to door, business to business, to kiosks in the malls, to the stages. I've spoke and sold on stages. I've done it in boardrooms, one-on-one, one-on-many. And she's been a part of that journey. And now she can kick it out a presentation in 15 to 20 minutes. And then we define it, we refine it, and then we present it. I'm always about give value, derive value, and create value together. And I think that's a beautiful place to come from. So you've studied over 170 real world AI business use cases. This is just remarkable.
Yes.
What's a pattern that you see across the successful ones?
So there's There's 5 major patterns. So the first one is if you don't hardcore focus on business value, you won't get there. So if you don't know you're driving to New York and you just get in the car and point someplace, you're probably not going to end up there, right? So it's not rocket science.
I ended up in
It's not
Canada.
rocket science, but that's the first one. The second one is there's so much you can do. So focus on customer centricity. Customer centricity and employee centricity in what you build are typically good uses of resources. So when you're trying to decide where you want to get started, customer centricity or employee centricity, big ones. The third one is if you are in a culture that is siloed and you have communication challenges, you have data challenges, et cetera, you're going to struggle with AI. So if you look around your organization and you think you've got a culture problem and people hoard information, they don't communicate well, cross boundaries, et cetera, you need to address your organizational challenge because AI is only going to make it worse. You've got to have collaborative, modern thinkers in leadership roles, and you've got to get that all the way down grassroots to the front lines. Data is absolutely 100% at the core of everything. Data is at the core of everything. So you've got to make sure that you govern your data. You're responsible. You deal with things like privacy and compliance. I was speaking with a multi-billion-dollar organization, and they don't have anyone that's responsible for data. A multi-billion-dollar organization, no one's responsible for data. That is organizationally a challenge, right? That's a problem. So they need to address that. So that's one that's really important. And the fifth one is you have to instantiate an attitude of iterative learning, and you have to make it okay to fail fast and pivot and learn and move to the next opportunity. Organizations that punish perceived failure do very badly with AI. So if you have a very low tolerance, non-resilient culture, you're going to really struggle to compete in a world where AI is proliferating. So you've got to make sure that you make it okay to not be exactly right, because AI often teaches us things we didn't expect to learn because it finds patterns that we, as humans, we didn't know existed. So if you set out to accomplish something very specific and you end up learning something else along the way, do you consider that a failure? Or do you embrace what you learned and take what you learned there and turn it into the next iteration? And this is why I tell people scope really small and iterate, because you're going to learn. And in that process of learning, you have to make it okay to have learned something you didn't anticipate. And culturally, that's a real challenge for some organizations.
Yeah, brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant, Lisa. Congratulations on all of your success. And, where can people get the book, Show AI? Is it available yet? Because I've been looking and I'm like, where can I get it?
It's on pre-order. Actually, our email campaigns just kicked off this morning. It's now broadly available for pre-order. It is in multiple countries. I have been assured by Amazon that it's going to be rolled out to more countries. I think it's 8 right now. The pre-orders drop on September 30th. So you can order from Amazon, from Barnes and Noble.
Great, man. I need it now.
You need it. You need it now. If I had one, I'd send it to you. I don't have one yet either. So all I have is my really ugly manuscript version of it.
No worries.
I'll have my first copies in August, and we'll put you on the list.
Amen.
Yeah. I'm really excited. You can go to drlisa.ai/book, and it gives you a full description of the book and all the places that you can buy it from.
Okay, great. And how do people work with you?
Again, hit me up, drlisa.ai. You can get in contact directly with my team there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I write almost every day something on LinkedIn, try to upskill our whole community. Rising tides raise all ships, as the old saying goes.
Rising tides raise all ships. I love that.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm on there every day. You can hit me there as well.
Dr. Lisa Palmer.
It's been a pleasure, John.
Thanks for being on the show. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.